Welcome to another CTC Software webinar. Today we are going to be talking about AutoGrader and what's new in AutoGrader since 25.0. My name is Tony Crick. I'm the Civil Product Manager here at CTC Software. And this webinar will be recorded for you to view later if you would like. If you are joining us live, thank you for spending some time with us today. If you have any questions as we go along, please ask them in the question panel and we will get to them after the webinar. If you are watching on YouTube and you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comment and we will get to those as well. So again, thank you for joining us today. We're talking about AutoGrader and what's new. AutoGrader. It's part of the CIM Project Suite of tools. It's intended for everyday Civil 3D users creating design and production drawings. We are on our latest version today, 25.4, which just came out yesterday. So if you don't have it, you can go get it. Just go ahead and, if you have our tools, go ahead and hit the About button and the download, and you can get it there. And we currently work back in four versions of Civil 3D, so back to 2021, including the current version, 2025. AutoGrader. What does it do? Well, it creates site grading models that are both dynamic and stable. It generates grading families using feature lines as parents to dynamically create feature lines as break lines. And they will update when the parent feature lines change by simply rerunning it. We have different ways of creating those child feature lines. They can be parallel, perpendicular, or based on a template feature line that you create. And we can do that using various methods, including slope, distance, surface targeting, and then we can define the child creation options and add those to surfaces as break lines. And we have lots of formatting options for those feature lines, including the styles, site assignments, and naming conventions, which we'll get to here in a bit. We'll show you some of that today. Today, we're mainly going to be focusing on the new features for AutoGrader since 25.0. You're going to see a little bit of how you can automate some of your grading workflows to make them more efficient, and that will in turn reduce manual grading and your accuracy, and thereby maximizing your productivity within the CIM Project Suite. So native grading, some of the pitfalls of it when you're using feature lines to grade from, I think we all have done this before. We're using stepped offsets. It's pretty much one at a time. It's kind of cumbersome. You have to change things there. So it's a lot of clicking and multiple clicking, and it gets very tedious. And then grading groups, they're really not that easily repeatable and can run into some pitfalls, and updating can be a pain because you really need to check things and be on your toes and monitor as you go along there. So with AutoGrader, we give you the three grading families, as I mentioned before: the parallel, the perpendicular, and by template. And we create dynamic feature lines off of the one parent feature line that we use that you have defined. And we access all of your existing Civil 3D styles and layers. Nothing is new. That's the caveat to it. You have to have that stuff in your drawing. But therefore, we don't have anything proprietary, and you can freely share those. And we can create surfaces and sites and layers right in the tool without having to leave it. And break line settings can be specific to the families, and we have lots of control over that. All family settings can be then saved as templates and then repeated, so you can save those out and bring them back in so you don't have to redo those every time. And our perpendicular families, we can create feature lines at intervals, or we can use existing feature lines or polylines to create those perpendiculars from. We'll show you some of that here in a little bit. So what's new? As of 25.2, I believe, we included templates as a stock for your customization, and they're included at the location there. I will show you that again in a little bit. But if you want to jot that down or whatever, if you're not aware, you can always come back to this webinar and see where they're at. But see users, public, CTC software, not sheet generator, label genie, or auto grader, I'm sorry. So we included all those. I saved whatever. That's a bad slide. And we improved our perpendicular creation to now follow parents and the stationing more directly, and we have segment highlighting that makes it easier to edit. Then we also improved our custom naming of child feature lines, so we can do that right in the tool as well. And the newest thing for 25.4 is we added, by request, a rounding option for the perpendicular grade breaks. We have 3 ways of doing that, which we'll show you. It's normal, up, or down, depending on your needs. So with that, let's take a look at a drawing here. And show you what we have. So here's a site right here. This has been graded using AutoGrader, everything here, including the roads, the lots, the entire site using AutoGrader. So if you're doing something like that, it can get a little complicated. So AutoGrader's right here. We click to open it, and for this particular site, here is all of the different families that are in here. So it's quite a lot. And in order to keep track of that a little better, if you're doing one such as this that's a little more complicated, let me open that up a little bit more for you. We added a highlight feature in here. So we added this right here, and here's where we set to get at those templates. I talked about the C Public, CTC Software Auto Grader. If you get those, you could put them in a different location. That's probably best practices. And they will be accessible where you put them by just pathing to it right there. So we can do some other things. We can set some of the precisions by default right here, how we want that. That kind of ties into our rounding. And then some feature line settings, some default stuff. All of this is default. Can always change that as we go, but here's the display. So we see I have a blue background for my main family right there. If I wanted to change that to something else, I simply do that here, and the highlight will show these pieces as we work on these. I don't know if you can see that. I'll show you that in a second here. So I'm going to leave that at yellow. We'll say OK. And now you see that that's changed to red. So if I click here to open up my family, let me get back to one other thing I want to show you from here. To create a family, we hit the plus. To get rid of a family, we hit the red X. If we want to edit a family, we can do that here. We can also do it here. If we want to copy one, we can do that here. I mentioned the surface creation can be done right in the tool. That's here, right here. You simply enter the same stuff you would as creating a surface natively, and it will populate in your tool space. And if you have the templates or path to them, they will be here. Here they are right here. These are all the ones that come with it. So if you want to load those as you go here, if you want to save one such as this, if you're doing something like this and you want to save it as a typical road or what have you, Click right there. I'll just call it a name here real quick. Typical, let's call it side road. Typical side road, tell it to save. If I open this back up, it should be there. I might have to save. Nope, there it is right there. So I can load that again at any time. And also, if you're loading one of these, you'll get a warning. If I try to open that, I'm going to get a warning that's telling me you have two of those in there. So it highlights right away. It already says it's there. You don't need to load it. So some kind of things to get rid of or to save you from doubling up. And there's my delete, so I can just get rid of that. So when I come back up here, if I open, here's where the controls are for your family. So here's how we create the families. Here's the highlighting that we talked about in the first place there. If I click any one of these, I can move down so I see exactly what I'm working on. If you have something that's more complicated, sort of like this one, you don't know maybe where you are, this will definitely tell you. We have our different settings here, how we want to control that. So in this case, let me come back up to this top one right here. We'll just go with that one. So it's 16 feet at -2% from the parent. That's this one right here. Okay, that's what we need. You need to have created a feature line. That is the parent feature line. So that's how this works. You create the feature line and then everything else gets created for you. All of the lines that you saw in the background get created from right there. So right here, we can control, we mentioned before, we can control the break lines for that family. These will all be different for each family. So you can open those. They're going to take some of the defaults you already set. And then you can control how these go, where the break lines, the feature lines are created, placed before, after, lots of different, and then the types, lots of different settings in there to control things. Whether you really want to put them in there as break lines or not, that's up to you. You can select them as well from right there, and then some supplementing factors and some other settings down here for the boundary and how you want to control that. All that right within the tool. Right there, these arrows here control up and down, but we're really here to learn about the new stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and save and close that. We have many other webinars out there to see how this tool really works in more detail. So you kind of get the overview right there. So let me close this here and let's go to this drawing right here so I can show you some of the other things. So again, if I come and open this one, I've cleaned this one up, doesn't have much in there. We see when these were last run, some of the other things we can do for it. So if we want to see the whole family, we can click this button right here. That's going to show us everything that's there. If we jump into the family here, again, I can just see what feature line I'm using. Right there, we can see it right here. And to select that feature line, so this was created, keep in mind this was created the right-of-way as a feature line created off of the profile line. So how do we pick that? We have a number of different ways to pick that. You click the feature line window or button right there and it opens this window right here. And with that, we can select these one by one. So if I click that, we can select that by one right there. We can also do it a number of other ways right here. We have several different ways of getting at what we want to if we want to do multiples. So we don't have to do one at a time. We can do many of them at a time. So I pick that right there. I say okay. And then I come here and This is set to grade existing. So we mentioned before the grade existing, that's simply these lot lines right here. So they were also picked individually. When I do that, you can see that they are highlighted. So I know which ones I have if I needed to add any up there, what have you. For this example, I'm going to leave that at that. And they were picked one at a time, just FYI. And then some of the other settings we have in here. So we talked about we can do these in a number of different ways. If they're existing, we can open the settings and we get this box right here. And there's some different settings for this too, to control how they were drawn. If they're not drawn exactly, the explanations for this can be found in the help manual, the definitions of everything it does there. So I encourage you to read up on that. It should be pretty well explained there. Then our formatting. So our defaults that we had set in the opening window of the options, if we click that, that would do this. That would change all of that to this. So for this one, I've gone ahead and pre-selected how they want it to go, but these are pulling right from our feature line styles that are in our tool space. Likewise, our layering here, and then it will draw from the sites that we have in the drawing that are in our tool space. If we wanted to create a new site, we could click right there, give it a new site. It will be populated again in the tool space. We can also make a new layer right here. Keep in mind that the color will be white and the layer will be continuous. If you want it to be something else, you will have to go into your layer manager to change that. And then component naming, we have two different ways. This is improved custom naming or by component name. I'm going to leave it at component name for right now. I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to save this and close this. So everything was set up for this one. So distance at slope, we're coming from the parent line again right here, which is that right-of-way line, and the first one is to the house front. Again, it highlights there and then to there. And since it was created from an existing line, that's all I need. It's going to fill in the rest by the existing line that's there. So if I save and close here, and you could run it right there too and see what happens. We can't see that very well here, so I'm going to close that, and I'm going to just hit the run right here. And now it's run. So I'm going to close this, and let's go look over here. I'll show you that the stuff that we just created is there. So these feature lines, that's these right here with the family default name. Right there, they're calling it that. So that's the component name. They're not attached to the site yet. So if I close that down and I highlight one of these, we can also see that if I pick it here, we can see the name, the layer, everything is a regular feature line. If I look at my feature line editor, I see I've set this to 8 places for demonstration to show you the rounding next, but we can see that right there. So it's just a regular feature line. So if I wanted to round that, let's get AutoGrader open again. We'll show you what the rounding is. Maybe you'll use it, maybe you won't. But it is our newest feature. So if I open this up again, to get at our rounding, once we set this the way we want it, we go into our settings right here, and this will open the rounding window. So if I click this to round, now it comes alive, so to speak. So now I can set the precisions. I'm going to leave it for right now at 2 and method normal. So these spots are just, they were created by Label Genie on here, but they're regular surface spots using your style. So here's our normal, up, down. We can set it how we want right there. And we have to do this for each one of them. We don't have a default for that. It's going to assume you don't want one unless you select it. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to select all of these. And the reason I'm doing this is to show you how these numbers are going to change. Because they are part of a surface, which I've set right here as the surface. So they're part of the surface. So the surface is going to change, and these are going to dynamically update with that. So if I hit run, so it doesn't change the ends. Just note that it's not going to change the ends because they're connected to, in this case, the parent feature line out front, and in this case, the back line, however we had done those. But it's the grade breaks that we're concentrating on. So it's changing these grade break elevations, including this one out here. So we set that one. Then we came out here. If I come and look at this again, we're going at 40, then we're going 30, and we're going 30. This is obviously a longer line, so that's just going to where it goes. So that's how those change. So if I want to put it back even, I can simply come in here and take those off and then just rerun it. So I'm going to say okay, and I'm just going to hit run from right here. You'll see those numbers are going to jump back to where they were. So nothing got ruined, nothing got changed. We can go back to it at any time simply by doing that. And then we'll just round one more time. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to, I'm going to change my places. Let's go to 3 this time. And then let's go up. Just for randomly fun. And it can be any combination of up, down. In fact, let's do that. So let me go 3, and I'll do this one down. I'll say okay. And we'll leave that one at normal. And we'll go 3 places again. Now keep in mind when it does this, what it's doing is it's starting at the beginning of this. So 0.1, it's running this calculation, and then it's grabbing that number. So when this rounds, it's going to round from that number to this one to this one. Okay, if you didn't want it included, you would say no. But if I hit run, we're going to see that go again. And I'm only doing a small sample size here, but it will do this whole site very quickly. So we see now that hasn't been affected, but now it's rounded to 3 points, just like we intended. So let's jump out here. I'll show you another thing about how we improved or ways we can. I'm actually going to set this back. Doesn't matter really because I'm not showing you that again, but I'm going to set this back and then quickly run it to get back to native or the way it was. So if I hit run again from this button, they're changed back. Then they're coming from the surface, so they're reflective of that. So one other thing that we did was to improve the way, whoops, wrong family. No, that's the right family. Improve the way that these are created along the parent line. So we have some different ways of doing this. That other one was grade existing. Let me open that back up. So this one is grade existing. So those were existing feature lines. And so there, when I clicked it, that's why I got to this, and I had to go pick those lines. Okay, this is going to be create new. So it will create all new lines for you. You don't have to draw those. So I took the same family and I just copied it. Then I added this one to target the feature line, which is this property line out here. And I picked it by layer selection right here. So picked it, and now it's going to target. So it's going to do the same thing it did before. It's going to run from there at the set, and then it's going to come out here and it's going to find that point right there. So some other settings in here. Do I want to include that in the surface? So these change to say how you want to do it. But how we did this here was the formatting. So what I wanted to do was just do it at the beginning. So I wanted to do starting here at 0 and going every 60 feet. So what did I do? I set the range from 60 to 420, doing the math at 60-foot lots, what they needed to do, and then I just told it to add them in there, right there. So if I take these out of there, here, I'll take them out, and I'll add them back in, just like that. So they're added in there. So I say, okay, right here, and there are other ways we can do this. I could do it full, a lot of different ways. Then we have our left, right. We're going 0 this way. I know that from picking this, so I know why they need to go to the left. And when I hit my formatting here, if I give them a custom name, okay, and I call them new lots, but they're not attached to a site of any kind. And my child is style. This is really just there for controlling the hierarchy, how you want them to go. So all the same settings right there. So I'll say okay. And if I hit run here, it's going to create new lines right on top of those. So there you can see the new line that went on there. I'm going to save and close right here. Close. And if I come and look at in my tool space over here, and I come and look at my feature lines, I'm going to come to the top, and here they are. So if I go to select those, right there, there it is, part of that. If I wanted to add them to the site, I could do that again. So let's go look at the site. Let's see what's in there for feature lines. All the other ones are, but those that we just put in there should not be. So I don't have many lookout lots or any other. There's the named ones I have for this, created by AutoGrader previously. So let me come in here. Let's open up that other one again. And these aren't going to affect anything in there because they're not part of the surface or part of a site, whereas these are. So if I reopen this back up, and now I go to my formatting, and if I add these to the site, my subdivision site, I say okay. And if I just hit run again, they will become part of the site, feature lines within the site. So I always say best practices, you like to do this without a site and probably a surface to start with before you get everything the way you like it. Let me just get these out of the way so we can see the other ones. So there they are. Now if I come and look back in here, in my tool space, in my sites, they've been added to the list. If I click on it, I should get, you know what, did I not tell it to do the name? Let's look at that again. I think I forgot to tell it to use the custom name. So let me click that open again. Yeah, I left it at component name. So let me use, now we should see demo lots in there. So I mean, you can just rerun it this quickly right here. I'll save and close here, hit the run here. And again, these can be run and rerun. All it does is takes it off of there, it finds it, it gets rid of it, and replaces it with how you want it to be. So here they are, right here. Here's my demo lots. If I select that, so one is there, and so on. They're all the same name, so it's just going to give it the standard Civil 3D numbering format. So 1, 2, 3, it's going to go in a numbered order, just like that. Okay, so that's all I had to show for today. Hope you saw some useful things in there, some new things. Always looking to improve our stuff. So thank you for joining us today or watching on the YouTube. If you don't have it, you'd like to get it, go to ctcsoftware.com. If you have any ideas or need help, please visit our support. And that's in the right in the tool, you can do that. And remember, let me jump back and then show you where to get at that. And remember, we build all of our tools for you, by you, from your suggestions. So anything we can do to improve your workflow, we will. I probably should have covered this before, but so you can get the help manuals right here. You can see helpful videos, which this will be one of shortly. And then the support is right here. I mentioned we're on 25.4 right now. Find that out right here. If you're not there, simply hit this button right here. It will take you to our website to get the download information from there. So I will stick around for any questions. I don't see any coming in. Thank you again for joining us. Hope to see you at the next webinar.